Okay, folks, we're going to get started again on our tutorial series. Today, we're going to go over the State Street Global Advisors Target Date 2040. So let's get started with that. Okay, so make sure you read the fund objective. But basically, this fund seeks to maximize assets for retirement with an expected retirement date on or about 2040. So the way that this fund is set up, it'll start off pretty aggressive. As it gets closer to 2040, it becomes more conservative because it thinks that you're going to retire about 2040. So today, let's go over the performance. We're going to compare the 2040 target date for State Street with the Dow Jones 2040 target date and the S&P 500. So let's look at the year-to-date returns. State Street 2040 target date, Dow Jones 2040 target date are about in line. S&P 500 is about 4.5–5% above those two. 2040 target date is getting more conservative than S&P 500. It should be below the S&P 500 at any given time. S&P 500 is the global benchmark. Look at the 1-year return. You see 2040, Dow Jones are about in line. They're about 8 percentage points behind the S&P 500. For the 3-year, the 5-year, and the 10-year, you won't get a lot of results from the 2040 because it is a newer fund. So that's why those don't show up. But if you look at the Dow Jones 2040 target date, it's also behind the S&P 500. Look at the long-term average, which is since fund inception. 2040 target date has like a 10.4% return, which is in line with the Dow Jones 2040 target date, and it's about 4.5 percentages behind the global benchmark, the S&P 500. Let's also look at the calendar year returns. You see last year, very few things for 2018 were positive. So State Street 2040 target date was a minus 8%, close to the Dow Jones 2040 target date, and it actually did better than the S&P 500. Let's look at 2017. State Street 2040 target date had a 20% return, a little bit better than the Dow Jones. Again, it's still behind the S&P 500. You can go through these, compare them all the way back to 2009, except for the 2040 target date for State Street, because it's a newer fund. But let's look at the Dow Jones to see if it's historically behind the S&P 500. You see 2014, 6 and 14, 2013, 22 and 32, 2012, 15, 16, 2011, minus 4, 2, 2010, 18, and 15, that's an exception year. And 2009, 34 and 26, that's another exception year. But the long-term averages, the Dow Jones should be behind the S&P 500. One more thing to look at this time around. If you had a $10,000 investment a year ago, you can see how much it grew. So $10,000 a year ago. For S&P 500, it wound up being $11,350. The other two target dates is about 10.5K. So as you see, historically, the target dates are behind the global benchmark, the S&P 500. That's enough for this video. Stay tuned for part 2.